Hi, my name is Jacqueline with Nickel and Dime Decor, but this video doesn't have a thing to do with decor. I usually make videos to make things for the home, but the Lord just told me that I need to do this because maybe it will help somebody. I'd like to give you my testimony, and if you know of anyone that has struggled with addiction, if you know any wife or mother or anybody that lives with someone with an addiction, please watch this video and pass it on, because it's a great, great problem and it hurts so many lives. But my story, I've been married now this is my husband and I's story, and my husband's name is Sonny, and we've been married for 57 years. And that's why, to me, it was kind of urgent to do this, because I don't know how many more times I can tell my story. So I wanted to share it with you. I have a cup of water because my throat. I will give you my main thing that I want to talk about. Is an event that happened October the 26th, 1986. But before I share that night with you, I have to tell you a little bit of background. My husband started drinking when our oldest son, named Leonard. Leonard was probably about 2 years old when Sonny started going into town with his dad. We lived out in the country, 45 miles out of town. He started going in and helping his dad and his uncles build the VFW. And very innocently, that's where it started. You know, people don't wake up one morning and say, you know what, I think I'll be an alcoholic. They don't do that. It slips up on them, and before they know it, there's no turning back. Well, it didn't take him long, and he was a full-fledged alcoholic. His mother was an alcoholic, and I guess it was in the cards. They told me later, I read and heard and was told that he had a 50-50 chance with his mother being an alcoholic. Well, we had a troubled marriage and a chaotic marriage, but I always felt led to stay with Sonny. God always told me, you just stick around. It's going to be all right. So, fast forward, October 26, 1986, our son now, Leonard, is now graduated, and he works at a rural telephone co-op, and he's still living at home. He got that job a week after he graduated, which was the end of May, and this is in October, so he had been there since then. And we lived about a block from the football field, and it was a Friday night, and there had been a football game, and of course Sonny went to his friends to drink, and he come home about, it seemed like it was about 12:30, and he didn't come in the house. I heard him out in the garage, but he never came in, and I worried that he had passed out or something. Well, finally, the door swings open, and my bedroom was real close to the garage, and it flies open, and he said, "Get up, Mom, you're going to take me to get some help." Well, I very callously rolled over and said, "Sure, we'll talk about this in the morning," because I had heard things like this before. Well, he went down the hall and woke up our oldest son, and Leonard, being the obedient son that he always was, he got up, got dressed, and out the door they went. And I had no idea where they were going, what was taking place. Just a scary, I just didn't know what was going on. Well, and Leonard tells me the story as he gets home. Him and his dad went down the streets of town, and Sonny says, son, stop right here at Pack-a-Sack. I need to get some cigarettes because I'm going to need them. And so they went in and he got his cigarettes, and they're at this intersection where you can go 4 different ways to different towns. And Leonard says, well, Dad, where are we going? And Sonny says, I don't really know, but let's just go to Friona, 35 miles away. So they start out, they get almost to Friona, and Leonard turns to his dad and he says, Dad, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. But I'm going to tell you something. We're not turning back. And Sonny says, you're right, son. We're not turning back. So off they go. And they go to Friona. And Leonard says, well, now what? Well, Sonny looks around. He's still a little confused. And he said, well, let's go to Muleshoe. Muleshoe is another 45 miles, and Muleshoe has nothing. It's a spot in the road, nothing. And Leonard says, well, all right, Dad. So here they go. Well, when they get to Muleshoe, they kind of ride around, and Sonny keeps saying, let's keep looking around. Guess just drive around. And then all of a sudden he said, stop, there it is. Well, Leonard looks up and there's their little hospital, little bitty thing. And across this entrance is a banner thing that says the Intercept program. And Sonny says, there it is. Well, weeks later, I learned that 3 of my precious little friends, 90-year-old ladies in our church, were praying for my husband to see an advertisement that had just the waves of grain, the wheat waving in the wind. Didn't say a word, but up at the top it said the Intercept program, Muleshoe, Texas. And they prayed till it went into his mind, went into his brain. So he goes in and he says, I would like to admit myself. And they look up and say, well, we've never had anybody admit themselves. Son, don't you want to sign your dad in? And Leonard says, no, my dad can sign his own self in. So he did. And it's probably 5 o'clock in the morning before Leonard comes home, before I walked the floor all night long. And he tells me where his dad is, how it all happened, everything. And then halfway through the day, it dawns on me, hey, I've got to go where he works and tell him he's not going to be back for a while. I didn't know what I was going to say. But I did know the office manager pretty well. And as it turns out, he is my granddaughter's husband's granddad. Of all things, small world. But at the time, I didn't know him that well. But so I go and I tell him, and the man was shocked because not a soul knew my husband was an alcoholic. You see, there's many different kinds of alcoholics. And there are some that can work, never miss a day, are reliable, and they just drink from the minute they get home until they go to bed. Or there's other people that go on binges and are gone. And And then there's some that can't keep a job. And then there's all kinds of alcoholics. Well, I told him he wasn't coming back till I didn't really know when. And he said it's okay. He will have a job when he gets back. So that was such a relief. And then I get a phone call from the rehab place and they want me to come over. Well, I figured, yeah, they want me to come over because they want some money. So I go over, and sure enough, that's what they were talking about. They told me it would cost $25,000 for 6 weeks treatment. I knew we had insurance at the phone company, but I had no idea if they would pay on something like this. And they wanted $500 deposit. And so I had to go back to the office, and I told the manager, and he said, well, I checked up on it, and our insurance will pay $5,000 up front. And then we'll worry about the rest later. So I presume that they paid that. I don't remember. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. Well, I called my sister-in-law, Sonny's sister, and she gave me the $500. So we got that part taken care of. And then the days ticked off. I wasn't allowed to see Sonny. It was just as well. I knew he needed that time. This rehab center is operated by people that are recovered alcoholics or recovered drug addicts, or they've all been there. And it's a very successful program. But after 9 days, I get this phone call, and this place is filing for bankruptcy, and they're sending Sonny home. And I thought, my oh my, and that didn't turn out, did it? But they, I think Leonard went and got him. Yes, I know he did. He went and got him. And the minute Sonny walked in the door, he was a different person. His countenance, I cannot describe it, but I knew he had never taken another drink again. It was just, it just was laid out before me. He would not take another drink, and he didn't. He didn't, and he hasn't since October 26, 1986. But he came home, and we were glad he was home. But that's not where the story gets real happy. You would think that would change your lives, and it did. But we had a lot of problems, and we had drinking. Now, we just had a lot of problems without the drinking. And this was a whole new ball of wax, because I had prayed for 17 years for my husband, thinking that we would just have this garden bed of roses if he would quit drinking. But life isn't that rosy. So anyway, we had a real big challenge there to get through those days. But in the meantime, we never heard a word about the $25,000, or now 20. We never heard from those people. We never got a phone call, a letter, or nothing. So I say the Lord took care of that. And we sold our home. It's something my husband wanted to do. We had only lived there for a short 3 years, but we bought the house from drinking buddies and got it for little of nothing. So we had a great deal of equity in it in 3 years. So we sold our home. We paid off all of his debts from his business that he drank up and wiped the slate clean. Got a fresh new start. But I think this story, and I have so many more stories to tell you, and some of the things I want to tell you, what Sonny shared with me, what happened to him over at the Recovery Center. But we can't make this too long, so I want you to come back and hear the rest of the story. But I love the old song, Redeemed, Redeemed, Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Sonny was redeemed that night. And even though he wasn't a Christian at the time, the Lord took pity. The Lord answered prayers from those ladies in my church, my prayers of 17 years. And the Lord answered those prayers and redeemed him. Not because he was a special person, because God loved him. And I just want you to know, I want anybody out there to know that God loves you. And he is reaching out. You might think he's not, but he is. He's reaching out. You just have to take hold and take him by the hand and go with him. And I urge you to do that. If God calls you one night in the garage or somewhere else, and you might not know it's God, but I can guarantee you it is. It's God. Take him by the hand and go with him. He will never lie to you, and he will never let you down. It doesn't mean you're going to have a rosy, rosy life afterwards, but it means you'll be redeemed.